reserved format. Thank you very, very, very much for being with us. It's very much appreciated, your time here. Another technical note, if we have time, what we're going to try and do is involve the audience after we've heard the introductory speakers and the two main keynote speakers, which I'll introduce later on. We're going to try and involve the audience using a voting app in two sessions. Now, the platform we'll be using, hopefully, is called Slido, and it's your chance to refresh and go over what we took away from the two keynote presentations. It's extremely easy, as you know, to use a voting app like Slido, and it should produce, in the first exercise we do, a tag cloud of Castellani's key points, and in the second speech we'll be coming up with, we'll be looking at some smart phrases that come out voted by you. It's absolutely anonymous, so we'd really, really like you to stay with us and participate, and we'll do that depending on how much time we have at the end of this session today. I'm now going to hand you over for an introduction to this project to Mr. Valek Jose, who's the Interreg Central Europe Joint Secretariat. Thank you, Jose. Prego.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you, Julia, Marcela, for inviting me. So I will share my presentation now. Hopefully you'll be able to see it full mode. So can you see it in full mode now? Right. So yes. Yeah. So let me just start by introducing myself. My name is Jože Valić. I'm a financial manager of this project at the Joint Secretariat. It's a pleasure to be here. Unfortunately, my colleague couldn't join me today, Angelica Vaness, but she's sending her greetings. And of course, I will also unfortunately have to leave soon after this presentation because of another meeting. But I will just shortly present our program, the future of it, and I will also stop by some information regarding the current program. So I will first give you some numbers of the current program. Our program is, of course, funded by the European Regional Development Fund. In the Central Europe area, we cover 146 million citizens, 76 regions, and 9 countries. The total budget invested is 241 million euros, which is just about 0.07% of the total EU region policy budget. And this comes to 0.22 euro per each citizen in the area per year, which is quite a small investment, I would say. And if we look at the budget per priority, there were 76 million allocated to priority innovation with 48 projects, 42.5 million in low carbon with 25 projects. In environment, there were 85 million euros allocated with 49 projects, and 27.5 million allocated to transport with 16 projects. In total, there were 138 transnational projects funded with 1,443 project partners participating. If we look closely to the innovation, we funded 48 projects with 495 institutions involved in 9 countries with 76 million euros of funding. The projects were focused on pilots, strategies, tools, and trainings. and you can find all the outputs available on our web page, on our program web page. So you are very welcome to visit our website and see all the results also from other projects. And if we move to the future, which I'm sure you are very interested in, we still have 9 countries and this time 81 regions, a bit more than in the last program. 4 program priorities are covered and 9 program specific objectives. The total funding is slightly smaller than it was in the past. It's 224 million euro, and the duration is again 7 years. If you look closer to the 4 priorities and specific objectives, priority 1 is cooperating for a smarter Central Europe with 2 specific objectives. Priority 2 is cooperating for a greener Central Europe with 5 specific objectives. And there are also priority 3 and priority 4, which are cooperating for a better connected Central Europe and improving governance for cooperation in Central Europe with 1 specific objective. And of course, if you're interested in more information, of course, you're invited to our webpage where more details are available. And the actions that will be supported are in following thematic fields: green economy, bioeconomy, cultural and creative industries and tourism, silver economy, technology and innovation transfer to SMEs, innovative schemes for financing innovation, industry 4.0 with robotization, mechatronics, digital technologies, and key enabling technologies. And of course, the focus will be also on innovation in health, social innovation, and interregional partnerships along value chains. And just for the conclusion, of course, perhaps the most interesting information. As you know, the call 1 was recently closed. We had all 4 program priorities and SOs open, and the indicative budget was 72 million euros. We received quite a large number of applications, 280, and of course this budget is unfortunately not enough to finance all the applied projects. So of course we are now in the phase of assessment. We are currently checking the relevance of the projects that applied, and of course this process with the next step, the full assessment, will end in the second half of this year, and we look at the first projects that will be selected to start in the beginning of next year. But of course, I'm sure that some of you applied in call 1, so of course I wish you good luck and hope we will be able to cooperate again in some project. But for those who perhaps didn't have a chance to apply or for some other reason, of course there will be also call 2. It will open in early 2023. It will introduce new type of projects, which are called pioneer projects. And of course, this project will be much smaller. The indicative budget will be just around 10 million euros. So what is expected is that these projects only have 3 to 6 partners involved, and their budget should be only between 0.4 million and 0.8 million. And they should be focused, of course, also on the projects selected in the first call for proposals or building on them. So this is just shortly everything from my side. Of course, you can get more information on our webpage and of course in our social media. Please follow us if not done already. And Yeah, so perhaps you have, before conclusion, perhaps you have some questions. Well, I see Marcela nodding, so I guess no questions.
No questions
so
for you. You were really clear. Yes.
Yes, so let me just yeah, use this opportunity to thank, of course, Marcela and Julia for leading the project throughout all these years, of course, and all other partners involved. We are really happy to see successful projects and seeing your results. I think you're very, very successful, especially in these years that were far from easy, of course, with all the events happening right now. So yeah, I would like to thank you again for the good cooperation. And of course, I hope to see all of the partners, perhaps in some other calls, first, second, or later, and we will be able to cooperate again. So this is all from my side. I give word back to Marcela, and unfortunately, I have to leave to another meeting. So thank you very much again.
Thank you very much indeed, Jose. Thank you very much for your contribution. It's very, very clear, and thanks again for all the obviously hard work you've put in, as well as the other members of the team. Thank you very much. I'm now going to pass over to a good friend, Marcello Contini, who's the head of industrial policies of the CNA Emilia-Romagna. And it's a particularly nice time because I've been collaborating with CNA for just over 30 years. So I sort of know the history of these people very well, and they're great friends. So we're now going to pass over to Marcella, and then straight after that, she'll be introducing a video. Marcella, over to you.
Thank you, Phil. Yes, Phil, I can confirm he's one of our best partners, and he's also a friend. So it's really a pleasure to have him with us in this, let's say, celebrating morning together with us. Yes, so many thanks. Good morning, everybody, and on behalf of CNA Emilia-Romagna, welcome to the final conference of our 4STEPS project, and many thanks to Jose for being with us today, despite the other meeting he had. Many thanks not only for this, but also for being besides us in the last 3 years together with Angelica, supporting our work on the project. So really a precious and proactive presence, the one of the JS. We would have liked to organize a meeting together in Bologna today in presence, but due to the pandemic, as you know, unfortunately, it wasn't possible. In addition to COVID, we are also experiencing the ongoing awful situation of political, economic, and social instability. So that's why we thought that today's conference shouldn't just talk about Industry 4.0, competitiveness, and innovation, but also about the future of policies for SMEs and for all of us in the current geopolitical context. We will do this together with Mr. Castellani, professor at the Lewis School of Government. And after his keynote speech, Mrs. Tarucci, EIT manufacturing manager, will follow, and she will focus on Industry 4.0, digital transition, and new perspectives for SMEs. So many thanks to both of them for their precious contribution to our conference. Returning back to the core topics of our 4STEPS project, we are really proud to say that in the far 2018, when we were designing the project, it was focused on some themes, topics that would become even more crucial in the following years. So Industry 4.0 adapted and applied to small and medium-sized companies, measuring of the technological maturity level of businesses, and the role of digital innovation hubs in the digital transition. So these have been the pillars on which we have worked and achieved really extraordinary results thanks to our partnership. I will not present those results now, since after my speech we will show you a nice video created by PBN, our great Hungarian partner. And there in the video you will see summarized all the project, the results and the activities that we have organized in the last 3 years. As you will see, we have adopted a bottom-up approach by involving and analyzing 355 companies. This is something huge. And starting from the picture, let's say, on their needs, we planned a very rich action plan with a local declination following the real needs of companies. So this is something special, and I think we must be proud of it. The leitmotif of the project was concerned the digital innovation hubs, their role in the support to SMEs, and the implementation, improving and enrichment of their services. As you know, the European Commission is strongly investing on those gates for the support to SMEs in the digital transition, and many European calls are in the process of being published. Within the 4STEPS project and in our partnership, we created a network of digital innovation hubs, which will continue collaborating even after the end of the project. So I come to the end of my introduction, focusing precisely on the concept of collaboration, cooperation and contamination among different cultures and ways of working that represent the great value of underlying the policy of European Union and its main programs as Central Europe. I think that as never before, in this historical moment, these values are essential. So let me mention our super 4STEPS team, thanks to which extraordinary results have been obtained in the last 3 years of work together. So let's start from CNA Emilia Romagna, our super Giulia, Leda, Elisa, and Federica. Thank you. And then let's move to, sorry, Elisa, before, to Relab. The slide before was Relab, our scientific Italian partner besides us, Roberto, Chiara, Stefania, Arianna, and Silvia. And then our Polish partner, Arsa, Belsko-Biala, Jan and Patricia. Hi, and thank you really for your work together with us. The University of Applied Sciences, Vorarlberg, Austria, and we have Florian here together with his working group. And DEX Innovation Center, Czech Republic. Many thanks to Michal, Tina, and Wojtek. And then our Hungarian partner, PBN, and our Balázs and Martin, many thanks to you. And the Chamber of Commerce of Slovenia, many thanks to Miha, Nina, Urška, and Ziga. They were our communication partner, which helped us also for the organization of this final conference. Many thanks to all the team. And I come to the end with Victor, representing Virtual Dimension Center, Germany. Thank you, Victor. Okay, this is the whole group. We were here in Krakow last November. Unfortunately, the last time we could meet face to face. I hope we will have the opportunity to collaborate again very soon, as Jose said, also taking advantage of some of the new opportunities and calls of Central Europe. So many thanks really to our group, working group. It was really great and super proactive and collaborative. Thank you, really. So the floor now goes again to Phil to introduce the video created by PBN, as I mentioned before. Many thanks.
Thank you very much, Marcella. Coming up now is a video, and it's going to be 6 minutes, which is going to show the results of this work done by these 7 countries. And when you look at the names of those 7 countries collaborating so well, Marcella's speech comes out with this lots of passion and lots of energy and enthusiasm, which has permeated this project, which is a golden aspect of these projects that should never be forgotten. So it's absolutely fantastic. And here comes the video now for you. Great. Well, I hope you found that video interesting. A lot of work went into it and a lot of work is still going on. It's now my pleasure to move the program ahead, and I want to introduce you all to Professor Lorenzo Castellani, and he's a very, very experienced political commentator and analyst for national and international media. Now, the idea of involving Professor Castellani is to give us some sort of context to this, because it's not just the bits and bytes and the tools. This has to be slotted in to social media contexts. So let's hear from Professor Castellani what he has to say to us. Prego, Professore.
Thank you, Phil. Good morning to everyone. Congratulations for your initiatives and the great job you have done. So yes, I'm an expert in political history, particularly on political institutions. So today we will look at the scenario that was shaped by the pandemic and currently is shaped by the war in Ukraine. These two elements are extremely important, also because they affect business directly with new political risks and economical and policy transformations that are shaping this new world. So my title is A New Iron Curtain, so looking at history and the new tensions between the Western bloc, so Europe and the United States on one side, and let's say the other nations. We can include for sure Russia, but we can include also China and perhaps some other nations with a more autocratic or imperialistic approach. But to start, in order to understand the transformation of the present days, I think it's very important to analyze what has happened in the last 10 years, basically, where we assist to a massive shift, particularly at political and economical level. First of all, the starting point might be directly the crisis of 2008-2009. This crisis put an end, let's say, to a slow end to the era of neoliberalism. So the idea that globalization, financial markets, reducing barriers and tariffs will deliver prosperity for everyone. This idea started to enter into a crisis after 2008 and 2009, and it started a change in the economic paradigm. The first country to change this economic paradigm was the United States with the Obama era, so with a new, let's say, intervention of the government into the economy, the developing of a new protectionist approach, particularly towards China, that was then strengthened by the presidency of Donald Trump. The United States put in place also during the 2010, 2011, 2012, a new approach in economic intelligence, particularly scrutinizing the foreign direct investment of China. This idea in the United States were the forerunning for the European Union approach. Particularly, the monetary solution in the European Union was the first step towards the change of economic paradigm with whatever it takes, put there by Mario Draghi as ECB governor in order to put in place, let's say, a more expansionist monetary policy with the quantitative easing, which was prolonged by 2014 and is still in place today. So we are 7 years of low rates and great interventionism by the ECB. Then EU followed the American ally on protectionism, particularly towards China, on economic intelligence, so with an extension of the golden rule, so the capacity for the government to stop potential merger and acquisition which are clashing with national interests. And with the pandemic, we faced stronger state intervention into the economy, both for relieving the economy after the lockdown of the pandemic, but as well for stimulating growth. The example here, of course, is the Next Generation EU with the recovery plan and the suspension of the European Stability Pact. So the age of the austerity, which was prolonged in Europe, particularly up to the pandemic, now is definitely overcame by the event. The other great development at political level was the rising of a sort of new Cold War with China, which is implying a rising protectionism, a process of reshoring of the production. So basically a sort of repatriation of the production within the European and the American soil, so producing more on the original nation rather than abroad, particularly in Asia. Supply chains are shortening. This was, of course, an effect of the pandemic as well. So most of the products that before were traded at global level now are regionalized in terms of supply chains. And a stronger direct foreign investment control also in Europe through the mechanism of government control and golden rule. The other two elements which are very discussed, particularly by the Next Generation EU, are the Green New Deal, so new green policies, and the process of decarbonization. And the other pillar of the Next Generation EU is the digitalization process. So what we can suppose from a business perspective is that most of the public investment and incentives in the next years will be in the green sector, in the digitalization process, and I would add, of course, unfortunately, the healthcare sector because, of course, of the pandemic. At political level, these transformations, of course, which implies a crisis in 2010, 2012 in Europe, and then a very slow recovery, and another crisis with the pandemic, fostered at political level the rising of populist and nationalist movement on one side, so the development of this new movement, but on the other side, the answer of the mainstream politics, centrist parties, and of course political elite was a strengthening of technocracy, basically. So the role of technocrats, experts, scientists, engineers is rising for facing the pandemic, is rising for developing green and digitalization policies, is rising because generally when there's let's say a wind of war, the role of experts in government is always rising. And as well in the private sector, you need more specialization, you need more competencies. So this, of course, was increasing very much. We can assess it at Lewis directly, a great demand for education in general, both university education and as well masters or executive programs for people who are involved in their job already. So sort of continuous education is part of this transformation. Then the government are becoming more bureaucratic. We experienced it during the pandemic, and this is, of course, continuing. So there's a more discipline for many ways and control and use of technology by the government in order to discipline the citizens. I suppose that these technologies, as always happened in history, might be used also for other purposes by the government, for example, for increasing efficiency in collecting taxation. So this is another element from a business perspective to bear in mind. And then what we have experienced in Europe is a progress in the EU integration process, but this progress is bureaucratical and economical integration, not yet a political or constitutional one. So we will see in the further years if this new menace of war and the new world order that is coming out from the Ukraine crisis might provide an incentive for a political or constitutional change. But of course, in the present day, the EU integration process is still based on a stronger economic cooperation, but not a political reform. Which are the main problems today and the problems that were remaining from the pandemic? A weak strategical autonomy of the EU. This is, of course, the main strategical problems, both in terms of technology, so supply chains related to technology, for example, microprocessors, and as well energy, particularly oil and gas. Europe is still not providing entirely to itself the energy that is needed. Then a result of the recovery after the pandemic and as well the fiscal stimulus by the government and the green policies was a rising inflation in broader terms, but particularly inflation in commodities with a strong commodities shortage. This was evident both in Europe and as well in the United States. Probably in Europe, this is more related to the weak strategical autonomy in terms of energy and as well with a very strict regulation on green policies. While in the United States, this is more related to fiscal and monetary stimulus provided by the government, which are, of course, more massively compared to European Union. So the political power is becoming more bureaucratized. There are now strong ties between the public and private sector. We can say that we are entering into a phase of a stronger dirigism and centralization in the hands of government, and that capitalism is becoming more political. So politics is trying to manage more the process of innovation and generally the dynamic of capitalism. So this is why we are entering into a new phase in terms of political and economic paradigm. The green policies and the regulation are having a crash with reality. So the idea to set a series of objectives to realize at global level within 2030 or 2050 proved to be impossible. And the crisis in Ukraine show us that it is impossible to escape from fossil fuels, at least in the next few years. So politics, we should find a solution taking into account these elements. So it's not possible to apply entirely what Greta Thunberg and the movements around her ideas are suggesting us. So ecological transition is possible, but probably with a lower pace and with a different approach, with less regulation and more investments on technology. And this is probably the policy path that will be followed by the governments in the Western area. The lower fiscal stimulus, which in Europe have been lower compared to China and the USA, particularly if we compare Europe to USA, of course, is 1/3 approximately the fiscal stimulus provided for recovering after the pandemic, and also the stimulus by China is stronger. So the risk here for the European countries is to, let's say, remain a step back, both at technological and as well at industrial and infrastructural level compared to the two giants which are dominating the world. Another problem that is attached to this political difficulty by the European leadership is the difficulty to create a European champions. So let's say a process of merger and acquisition in order to create large European multinational corporations. This is due, of course, to the strong national identity of the Europeans. Let's say the approach of the government generally is to protect national champion, avoiding the incentivation of the creation of the new multinational corporation, which might, of course, compete with American and Chinese multinational corporations. This is particularly evident, for example, when we look at some elements of the European economy, namely infrastructure, technology. So Europe is characterized by medium-sized enterprises in this sector, while the giants are in China and in the US. And the other one, of course, is that political leadership, for the fact that we have many different countries, is spread, is partially decentralized. And of course, every time that national leadership is changing in the EU, we have to start the process of negotiation again, particularly when this happened in the major European countries. So there's a problem of coordination at political level in order to push or change in the European Union. So, of course, now there's another major event. This major event is the impact of the war, so the Russian invasion in Ukraine. This war is, of course, for the sanction as well, impacting very strongly, particularly on the European economy. The first sign of this is the energy crisis, so the rising prices of gas and oil, but also of many other commodities which are attached to the Russian-European relationship. A further reduction of supply chain and the necessity to reorganize the supply chain. For example, in Italy, the CEO of Eni, the big oil company, was looking to North Africa for a diversification of supply chains. But of course, this diversification of supply chains will probably last for years. The other great problem, from my perspective, could be inflation. Let's say a double-digit inflation that might arise in the next month could be a very strong political problem, not only economical one. Because, of course, euro was built around an anti-inflationist idea. The idea of stability of price was at the core of the common currency project. So let's say the trust of the European towards an inflationist common currency might be a political problem. The euro could be put into question in the future if inflation is becoming very high and not governed by the governments and the EU. The other element which might lead to a political change is the state of fear. So fear generally is always a currency for political change, for political instability. It tends to create an extremization and a polarization within the political spectrum. The other element that is very discussed in the last days is the militarization, or to say better, the remilitarization of Europe and how to do it. So it's pretty clear that the European countries will spend more in terms of defense, but yeah, you can have different approach in managing these further expenditure. For example, this expenditure might be within the context of NATO, so under the guidance of the United States, or it might be for creating a better coordination among the European armies. So fostering the process of creation, not of an European army, which is probably too far, but a coordination between the different armies of the European Union. And the other option is that this new defense policy and expenditure is entirely maintained within the national borders. And of course, this might be a problem because it might ignite a strongest competition between European countries. Think about the competition between, for example, France, with its very strong and prominent army, and a remilitarized Germany. So probably we need to find a way to manage this defense expenditure within a European or probably a NATO context. Otherwise, this might be a risk. The other problem is how to protect the European manufacturing sector from supply chains reorganization, shortening, and from the energy crisis. So probably the European Union and the government should intervene. They are discussing how during this week to stop the prices or to control the prices and to manage these strategical changes. But of course, this will be a long process, and it needs a very strong cooperation between the public and the private sector. The other element is immigration from Ukraine. Of course, many people to help, to manage, but probably also from Africa. We might see for the shortening and for the inflation and for the shortening of foods that is deriving from the crisis of the war, new wave of migrants from Africa. And of course, as you know perfectly, this might be a very important political problem in the next years. And the other element that is pretty clear is that with the crisis, with the war, with the need to spend more on defense policy, with the need to face the energy crisis, Next Generation EU will not be enough. So we will need something more. It's just a first step of fiscal stimulus. So new form of economic cooperation and integration, let's say broad or divided into different sectors, will be needed soon in order to address the problems that were put on the table by the war. So now to conclude, just the three possible scenarios that we might face during these months. The first one is the worst case scenario, so the worst perspective, with a prolonged and harsh conflict in Ukraine, energy shortage, rising inflation, so possible double-digit inflation, and stagnation, so a 1970s situation with a stagflation, no growth and plus inflation, with, of course, many political problems attached to it. Scarcity due to supply chain weaknesses and shortening, a process of deglobalization, so the need to product more and to pay more for commodities, and a decoupling, so the Western system on one side and China, Russia, and of course other satellite nations in this new system built around the Chinese currency. Of course, this is not sure, but is a possibility. It might happen. I'm not sure it will happen, but it could happen. And then, of course, a nationalization of defense policy, so the impossibility for the European countries to coordinate among themselves in order to develop a common defense policy. Let's say, creating the premises for a stronger competition rather than cooperation at defense level. Rising socioeconomic problems related to these elements, political instability, which might lead to a further growth of nationalism, international tension, and international order disgregation. There are many, of course, not only Russia, Ukrainian front, but there are other many fronts from Taiwan to Middle East to Balkans, which are, of course, potentially area of conflict and attrition. The dominant feeling in this scenario would be fear, insecurity, distrust. So basically, the impossibility to cooperate effectively at international level with weak policy solution. This might lead for the small medium enterprises to a liquidity crisis that is related to the rising prices of commodity and in general to the costs of the new process and the new scenario. Then there's a mild scenario, so a middle way scenario. A diplomatic solution is created for taming the conflict in Ukraine in the medium term, let's say 6 months, 1 year. Inflation and energy crises are present, but under control and governed, okay, at regional level. So with an agreement between the European government and possibly an agreement also with the United States, particularly on gas. Effective fiscal stimulus, so new fiscal stimulus for increasing the power of the next generation EU for addressing the economic slowdown that we are facing with the combination of the pandemic and the war. A centripetal twist of European politics, so extremes on the right and on the left are excluded from government and majority. They are weakened, so there's a strong bloc in the center in order to governing Europe. The security state, so the new expenditure for defense, is put within a context of supranational or international cooperation. The governments were able to design pro-business policy on small, medium enterprises, particularly related to taxation, so making the small, medium enterprises survival as on the top of the agenda. This is not happening today, but I think it should happen. We will see. We will see in a few months if the saving of commercial and industrial sector will be the top priority of European politics. In this case, probably the globalization could be limited because, of course, the war ceased within a few months or 1 year. The dominant feelings here are the uncertainty, but not fear or panic. So this is, of course, a scenario of transition, we can say, from the old world to the new one, but without a drama, okay? Then there's the best case scenario. Of course, we are all looking at this with great hope. I don't think this is the most likely one among the three, but it's still possible. We hope for it. So a diplomatic solution and ceasefire is found within few months or weeks. There's a normalization of international relationships, resilience of supply chain and globalization. So there's not a process of decoupling. The system remained based on the pillar of the dollar and on the idea of globalized markets. Of course, not in the same way of 10 years ago, but not reshaped in a dramatic way within a deglobalization process. New commercial treaties and partnership, particularly within the Western Bloc, are pushed by politicians at all levels. So this, of course, will facilitate the relationship between particularly the liberal democracies of the entire Western world. So political leadership proves to be effective and solid. European political security and economical integration is strengthened. So what I was saying before, new forms of cooperation at economical and defense level. The state is becoming more proactive, so looking for reducing taxation for small, medium enterprises, building new infrastructure, creating an effective supranational system of governance. So it's not only a protective state, not only a state that is based on defense, on barriers and tariffs, that is not, let's say, implementing only policies for defending, but also for development, which is, of course, a very important element for overcoming the crisis. Here, the dominant feelings might be in a few months of hope, confidence, and determination. Of course, it's a very optimistic scenario, but I think it's not the most likely, but it's not impossible. And I stop here and thank you very much for the attention.
Thank you very, very, very much indeed, Lorenzo. That was really a superbly condensed and very, very clear analysis, hugely useful. I think it certainly makes us all think, people who are running enterprises or have to do with helping enterprises, that really it's a question of being updated almost every day, and that the situation may change and move around, and that the business of a business leader is not just to get out the goods or the services, but to understand in what context, very, very mobile context, they're working in. And that presentation certainly got that message home. Thank you very, very much indeed. Now, I'd just like to reassure all the people online that you can only see the speakers today, okay? So we're in this conference mode, because if this is going to be put onto the social media, we didn't want to have all the participants' faces going to the social media, obviously to respect your privacy. So be assured, if you could only see the speakers, you're not on your own at all. There are other people online as well today, and thank you very, very much for coming along as well. Now, I'd like to ask Marcella if we have perhaps one or two very quick questions that have come from the audience for Lorenzo. Are there any questions that have come through?
There are no questions for Lorenzo.
Okay, well, I have a question, if I may. It's very quickly. It's a very quick one. Now, one of the really bang things that he came out with very clearly was this: we don't have enough European champion companies. We're, it's Amazon here and and then straight away he gave us the answer, because of the nationalistic, nationalistic, and we have Italy, we have France, we have Germany. So would there be space for something that was a sort of European champions model? Has it been looked at? Would there be space for this studies? What would it take to have European champions model? Now, there will be some examples of these companies around, but sort of an EU project that says, look, let's look at the best practice, and our focus is we want to generate the coordinates and the infrastructure to be able to generate these European champions, getting away from, if it's all run by the Italians, if it's all run by the French, it's all run by something a bit above that. And of course, it's quite complex because you've got a lot of cross-cultural weaving in and out of that. But Lorenzo, very, very quickly, is there something like a European champions model, or is it something that we need to sort of get our heads around and start really trying to get that together?
Well, there are some cases. For example, in the defense sector, there are some enterprises which are cooperating very effectively. Let's say for example, Airbus and other possible companies which are attached to Airbus for missiles, for example, and So there are some examples, but they are not as strong as they should be in every sector. I don't think it's very easy in Europe at this stage to overcome these resistances, particularly at national level, but something might be done at policy level within the EU. I think that is absurd that the Commission might intervene in order to protect competition against the possibility to set up European champions. This is what has happened in the past. Also very recent past. I think this is absurd because now we are in a different phase of capitalism. It's not anymore the neoliberal world. All the American digital companies are basically or monopoly or oligopoly. So I think that if there's an oligopoly in Europe in some strategic sector as defense or infrastructure or shipbuildings, these are or energy, for example, these are very, very important elements. So there should not be a competition policies that break up possible merging of European companies. So the markets, the financial markets and the EU might push for this direction, and I think could be very useful to not become a very small continent.
Yeah, thank you very, very much indeed. A wonderful reply, if I may say. Thank you very much for that amazing reply. We're going to move on now to our second and final keynote speaker, Panagiotis Sarouchi, who's an electrical and computer science engineer, and she's a very gifted PhD in robotics and human robotic interaction. And that's such a wonderful focus to study on, sort of human robotic interaction. It comes from a thing I work a lot on, like no silos thinking. So it's not just, yeah, it's all human stuff or it's just robotics. It's something that gets into this very, very complicated, very, very fascinating interface. So I'm going to hand over now to
Hello, good
Panagiotis.
morning to everyone.
Away to you.
Good morning to everyone, and thank you very much for the warm introduction. It is very interesting to be here with you. I hope that you already see my screen. I have started sharing. Can you see my screen? Just a confirmation from your side.
Not yet, not yet.
Not
No.
yet. Okay, I will try one more. Okay. And perhaps now you are able to see
now
that.
it's coming. Yes, now we see.
Okay, that is great.
Wonderful. We're on the full screen. Wonderful. Thank you. Wonderful.
Okay, so thank you very much, first of all, for inviting us. I am representing today the Regional Innovation Scheme of EIT Manufacturing. So I'm currently working as a manager, but as you already told in your introduction, I have a PhD in robotics and human robots interaction. I'm coming with a background working as researcher and also as automation and robotics engineer in industry. So more or less, I have 10 years of experience working around with such topics. And it's my pleasure to be here with you and sharing some information and some activities and opportunities that we are seeing under EIT manufacturing and the race pillar. Okay, so a short introduction from my side in terms of EIT manufacturing. So first of all, for us, manufacturing industry and of course for Europe is a global base for ensuring prosperity and of course to achieve economic, social and environmental sustainability. We strongly believe that it is a main driver manufacturing sector for ensuring industrial innovation, job creation and growth for European society and not only. So based on that, our mission as EIT Manufacturing is to bring together manufacturing actors across Europe in order to allow them to integrate innovation and education for ensuring an entrepreneurial and sustainable Europe. So what is the strength of EIT Manufacturing and what we strongly believe in this community? So first of all, we think that with our community, we can ensure that innovations will reach the market. We can ensure that the industry will have the right talent and entrepreneurs that can thrive. And through EIT Manufacturing, we are targeting and connecting and integrating the areas of education, business creation, and innovation, as you can see here, being supported by the Regional Innovation Scheme. That actually is the pillar that I'm representing today. And we are giving opportunities to the modest and moderate innovators in Europe in order to innovate, to be well prepared in terms of education, and of course, to have the opportunity for business creation. So in EIT Manufacturing, we have a very powerful partnership. As you already see here, we're 74 partners from 17 different countries. And the important thing is that we are having 52% of our partners coming from the industry in different perspectives. So there is a huge opportunity from our side and, of course, a huge relevance with respect to solutions for digitalization and the context of Industry 4.0. So how we are seeing the digital transition and Industry 4.0. So it is recognized among of the three important global challenges. So digital transformation is a key, let's say, challenge among sustainability and competition for our manufacturing SMEs. And we're giving a first priority as EIT manufacturing, and we're trying to ensure that all our activities are fitting very well and are creating a very good impact in terms of digital transformation. So from the SME's point of view, it is very important here to mention that at least in Europe, 76% of the SMEs see the digitalization as a management priority, and they see a lot of potential on that. And of course, a very important thing, and keep this in mind, that almost 50% of the European SMEs are considering the adoption of new technologies as being necessary for ensuring their future competitiveness. And towards this direction, Industry 4.0 and digital transformation is giving this opportunity to them. So our focus areas fits very well to Industry 4.0 and digital transition. We're trying to cover this topic along with flexible production systems, along with low environmental footprint systems and circular economy, along with digital and collaborative solutions for innovating manufacturing ecosystems, and of course, along with human-machine co-working for ensuring socially sustainable manufacturing. So it perfectly fits to all these focus areas that we have as key priorities in EIT manufacturing, and we're having different examples and opportunities and of course activities that we're already running towards this direction. So I have here collected some indicative, let's say, topics that we're particularly focusing also, and we have recognized as challenges regarding the Industry 4.0 technologies. We strongly believe that Industry 4.0 could trigger a new production revolution and transform business practices and conditions, and it has come to stay. So indicatively, you can see here some technologies that we're believing in EIT manufacturing that they will give a strong potential, and are connected somehow with some opportunities and also challenges that are faced in terms of Industry 4.0. So cloud computing is one of those. 4G, 5G technologies is another example. Adoption of multi-cloud environments and working in production lines using multi-cloud environments is another opportunity. Artificial intelligence, of course, and machine learning has a key priority that is highly connected with Industry 4.0, and we could have also great results towards this direction. Digital twins and augmented reality for supporting Industry 4.0 and our SMEs, cybersecurity issues, and all of them are targeting to shorter go-to-market strategies that could be adopted by our small and medium enterprises in Europe. So another example that we are seeing high potential is Industry 5.0. Actually, it is a step further, Industry 4.0. We're trying to bring on the table the interaction between the humans and machines, and to achieve a human-centered approach compared to Industry 4.0, that at the moment we're considering also the machines and systems interconnectedness. So a machine-centered, let's say, approach. So opportunities that we're seeing out of Industry 5.0 and towards this direction is cyber-physical systems, human-robot collaboration, and of course, smart automation, making the machines more intelligent and allow to interact between different stakeholders around a specific, let's say, work that an SME is doing. So in the risk pillar, I would like just to give you a short introduction before starting to explain what kind of opportunities and what kind of activities that we're running towards Industry 4.0 and digital transition. So in regional innovation scheme in EIT manufacturing, we are here to build strong connections between our stakeholders and to contribute in order to boost innovation in our EIT risk countries by strengthening the links between key innovation actors along Europe. So in that direction, we are trying through our objectives to widen the participation in EIT innovation community activities by engaging the relevant players and stakeholders from those countries, especially the ones that have lower participation in our activities. We are targeting on sharing good practices and experience and know-how from EIT manufacturing activities with local innovation ecosystems. And last but not least, we're trying to deploy some tailor-made services and solutions that are addressing identified innovation gaps in EIT risk countries in order to help also our SMEs to have a step forward and to grow. So in the risk program in EIT manufacturing, we're working towards integrating more and more activities for Industry 4.0 and digital transition. So you may see here a list of opportunities that we're offering. We're having a network of risk hubs, trying to engage more and more stakeholders working on the same areas. We're having programs for supporting women innovators in manufacturing for the risk countries. We have competitions like we're participating in EIT Job Starter, helping startups and individuals to, if they have an innovative idea, to come on the stage and help them grow. We are offering opportunities for the evolution of research results. We are trying to further support small companies, SMEs and startups, of course, to further grow and develop further the idea and find the correct target market for them. We're having entrepreneurship challenges that are running this year. Of course, we don't forget that education is very important for digital transformation. And we're having programs for teaching and learning factories, helping our stakeholders towards digitalization. We're having programs to engage society and pupils, and we're starting, let's say, from supporting and providing knowledge and engage stakeholders around Europe. And of course, we have innovation opportunities, like, for instance, innovating for a circular economy, where we can also replicate, let's say, digitalization aspects. We're having artificial intelligence at EIT RIS, and last but not least, and this is one of the key programs that we're offering, we're having green and digital twin transition for our SMEs, when we're having also some great results so far out of the projects that we're supporting. So some examples here about the outcome of education and training for digitalization. We have already run some activities on 2020 and on 2021 regarding engagement of society and pupils in order to ensure that we will have a well-skilled future workshop and workforce, and we're expecting to see those results in the future. So we're trying to engage students and teachers from different risk countries and organize webinars and workshops in the topics of robotics and digitalization and manufacturing. So we have continued this great work for 2 years, and for this year we have also activities toward the direction of Industry 4.0 and digitalization in manufacturing. And for teaching and learning factories, we have also some great results. We have supported mainly people coming from SMEs and startups, so professionals mainly in the topics of digitalization and Industry 4.0. And we have established some great results, either for teaching and learning factory projects, but also for individuals and organizations participating in those. So more specifically, some examples here about the specific activities, the objectives that we have identified towards digital transformation of our SMEs is, first of all, to identify the challenges that they are facing and work a little bit with our activities towards helping them to face these challenges. We have also as an objective to retrain and upskill personnel in order to boost the uptake of advanced technologies by SMEs. Among those is Industry 4.0, of course, and digital transformation. And as a key outcome, we're having boosting digitalization under the concept of Industry 4.0. So two of our activities, learning factories for digital transformation of SMEs and also boosting digitalization under the concept of Industry 4.0, have done in the previous year some very good results and have engaged people from industries and SMEs along these topics. So, digital transformation in RIS, we're having some activities in order to help manufacturing companies to identify their challenges and to help them also to create a roadmap towards the implementation of a digital solution. So within this activity on 2020, we were able, working close with our partners, to engage 22 manufacturing companies in 10 different EIT risk countries, and of course to have on board more from 75 employees working in the digital transformation projects. So the idea was to identify the digitalization maturity in EIT risk countries in terms of different perspectives like PLM systems, MES, IoT, ERP, SCADA, etc., and have some consultation in order to identify what kind of solution could benefit our manufacturing SMEs. So it is, let's say, an activity that had as a direction to create some tailor-made solutions in terms of digital transformation. We continued with another activity in the next year, more or less having the same target to help SMEs and startups towards digital transformation. So for that purpose, we have tried to work with interactive seminars, individual consultations, and of course planning of digital transformation projects. And you can see that we have engaged 14 different SMEs and more than 110 participants from 6 different risk countries, in order to ensure that at the end of the day, they will have created a clear roadmap for implementation of digital solutions based on their needs. So tailor-made solutions for our SMEs. So I would like now to share with you some opportunities that we're having this year, and of course you could consider those especially for SMEs and for startups. So first of all, we're having a competition of evolution of research results. It is called Tech to Market for this year. So we're offering for 6 months 50K to 10 startups or SMEs in order to further develop a solution that they have or something that they have in mind in different contexts. This would be aligned in any case with our focus area, and Industry 4.0 and digital transformation is one of the basics. So this is a great opportunity. The call is opening in the beginning of April and will stay open for 2 months. So it is a great opportunity to support SMEs and startups toward digital transformation. Another opportunity is our Green Digital Twin Transition Program. It is directly connected to digital transformation topics and only. So it is called Demo Green for this year. So we're expecting in the beginning of April to have the open call and to support at the end of the day 8 SMEs and startups in order to implement a demonstrator, first of all, in teaching and learning factory, and then prepare for them some coaching and also some mentoring in order to help them to integrate their own demonstrators in their factories. And one last opportunity that I would like to share with you is a competition that has already opened from middle of this March, and it will stay open until the middle of May. It is called Entrepreneurship Talents at EIT RIS. So here we are going directly to our SMEs and looking for opportunities and problems that they would like to solve in order to achieve societal and environmental impact, and of course to improve the daily lives of the workers, to make the work safer and also more ergonomic. So we are expecting to support 8 teams by giving them financial support of 50K for 6 months. And we're trying to recognize among our manufacturing SMEs some entrepreneurs that will play the role, let's say, of the leader. They will recognize the problem and they will also set up the solution with the help of a solution provider in order to make an improvement and to entrepreneur through the manufacturing SME that he or she works. And last but not least, our outlook for 2023, because we're not stopping here, we're working directly towards green and digital twin transition and transformation, and we recognize the Industry 4.0 opportunities and digitalization as a key challenge. So we're planning some opportunities for the next year. We have already launched a call for our main activities, and we're expecting to have some very good opportunities to work again and towards green and digital technologies and to help our SMEs and to support them through transformation piloting activities. So we're expecting to have some great results, and this is also an opportunity that it is open. Actually, that was from my side. I would like to thank you for your time. Thanks for inviting us. I would like to give you also some greetings on behalf of our director, Dr. Konstantinos Georgoulias. Unfortunately, he was not able to join today due to some personal reasons, but I was here instead of him. So one more time, thank you very much, and I'm open if you have any questions for me.
Thank you very, very much indeed. A really fascinating and inspiring presentation there. Thank you very much indeed.
You're
So,
very welcome.
do we have any questions? Marcella, do we have any questions?
Yes, I have one question. I know that some of our partners, as for example PBN, are working with you with the EIT manufacturing.
Exactly.
So many thanks, yes, for the presentation and also for describing us the opportunities also in a concrete way through the open calls, the challenges. What I would like to ask you is if the learning factory you were mentioning is a digital factory, or if you have also some
it is a combination. In our activities, we have a combination. Yes, there are actually digital platforms supporting the learning factories, but we are having our partners actually that are running the activities are having some in practice. So it is, I think, a great opportunity in order to help not only, let's say, people coming from education, but also people coming from SMEs and even from larger companies to identify the opportunities coming out of digital transformation and Industry 4.0. And I told you in the presentation, it is really one of our key priorities, and we're giving focus on that. So that's why we have a specific call for digital, for green and digital transition, more or less every year up to now.
Thank you. Your headquarters are in Paris, is it correct?
Yes, I am in Paris at the moment. So
okay.
this week is fully working from here.
Okay. I hope we will have the chance to collaborate and to have a meeting.
We will be very happy. Italy for sure is one of our risk countries. So I think that you will have the opportunity to join in any project that you would like to. And you're already collaborating with PBN, that is also a hub for the risk pillar. So for sure it would be great to have you also on board. It would be great.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Well, thank you very much, Panagiotta. I had a little question. It's a very, very brief question, but it's sort of inspired. At the beginning of this year, I went to very big institution we have here in Bologna called Istituto Rizzoli. And some guy presented me this guy, and he said he's invented the world's first artificial heel. You know, the heel of a man, you know, a woman. And you're being a super expert on human-robot collaboration. Just from a personal point of view, what's the most sort of inspiring example, practical example of human-robot collaboration you've come across, obviously, because that's your real specialization?
Okay.
What's the thing you think, wow, what's the wow you want to send us away with on human-robot collaboration?
Okay, it's really very interesting question, because in some cases it is really hard to find a concrete example in industry, having, for instance, a robot working close with a human. But I would say you just a simple example that I think it makes sense. In my first year of my study, it was also difficult for me to identify those. But let's say that you are having a very big part to carry, and for this part, let's say you need at least 2 people, and you have also a part that is quite heavy. So you can take the opportunity to have a robot collaborating with a human. The robot will take, let's say, the heavy part of the job, and the human could guide, let's say, the robot with his expertise and his elegant actions in order to complete the task more easily, and also to ensure that this is ergonomically, let's say, correctly from that point of view. So that could be, I think, a good example. But we're having also other examples that it's not directly collaboration. We can say them as interaction. Imagine that you're having a smartwatch that we're already using, and you're collaborating with a robot or with a machine. So it could be a great opportunity if you would like to have all the tasks that are running in your machine, in your smartwatch, or in your mobile phone, and just having a higher level monitoring of the machine. So this is an example, I think, where interaction makes sense, but it's not considered as collaboration.
Yeah. Thank you very, very much indeed.
You are very welcome. Thanks for this great opportunity to be here with you. It was really very interesting to hear your results. And I wish you all the best for the future.
Well, thank you very much indeed. I think it's time for us to wrap up now. Thank you for all the people who've contributed this morning. It's been really, really very stimulating and very inspiring as well. I think particularly in the context of a lot of international divisions we're seeing at the moment, it's so wonderful to see a project that unites. And I think the EU has always done that, but it seems to do a bit more on this. And this project was a wonderful example of uniting, what was it, 7? I checked them out, Italy, Poland, Austria, Czech Republic, Hungary, Slovenia, and Germany. In one shot, in this project, united those countries together. And that can't be a bad thing. Thank you very, very much indeed to everybody, and stay safe. And we hope to see you all again soon. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Have a nice day.
Bye-bye.